Today we're going to continue with our review on right triangle trig. We are going to be finding missing sides and missing angles. First, finding missing sides. Anytime you're looking for the side of a triangle, you want to look at your triangle and pick a trig function based off of the angle that you're given. So you always want to go with respect to the angle that you're given. And then you're going to set up an equation, and then from there you're going to solve. Here's your first example. So if I'm trying to find the missing side here, it might be helpful for you to go ahead and label your sides. So I want to look here at the angle 50 degrees, because with respect to 50, I have this here, this X is what I'm looking for. This is my adjacent side. And then this 11, since it's right across from my right angle, this is my hypotenuse. So you want to think back to yesterday whenever we were defining these ratios and think about what trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse. Well, that trig function is cosine. So you're going to set up your equation. So it's cosine of 50 degrees equals your adjacent, which is x, over your hypotenuse, which is 11. Okay, this cosine of 50 right here, this is just a number. If you punch this in your calculator, you're going to get a decimal value out of it. So you're just going to solve this getting x by itself. So you want to multiply both sides by 11 in order to clear out that denominator. So what we have is 11 cosine of 50 equals x. And then all you have to do is punch that in your calculator. If you have a calculator that has sine, cosine, and tangent on it, that's good. If you don't, you can go to this calculator here. And I'll put the link in the classroom, under the classwork for today, so that you can get to this if you need to. Okay, so we want to take this 11 cosine 50 and just punch it in our calculator. So 11 cosine 50. And there you go. Your answer shows up right here, just like it tells you. So we'll just go ahead and go to like 2 decimal places here unless the worksheet tells you otherwise. Okay, so we're going to just say 7.07. So x equals 7.07. Okay, these are just very generic examples, so we don't have any measurements here, but whenever we get into our word problems, whatever the measurement of the sides are, like if this was 11 feet, then obviously this would be 7.07 feet as our answer. Okay. Here's another example. So again, with respect to the angle that you have to think about what trig function to use. So 35 degrees, I'm going to go across my triangle to get to this 10.8. This is the opposite side. And then this is right beside it, so this is my adjacent. So you just want to think back, what trig function uses opposite and adjacent? For these problems, we're strictly going to stick to sine, cosine, tangent. We're not going to do secant, cosecant, and cotangent because those are not functions that are available to you on your calculator. So we're going to stick with sine, cosine, tangent. This one is tangent. So tangent of 35, so it's always the trig function, the angle, equals your opposite, which is 10.8, over your adjacent, which is x. Oops. Okay, for this, you're going to multiply both sides by x to clear out your denominator. So now we are left with x tangent of 35 equals 10.8. Okay, and like I said before, this here, when you have a trig function of an angle, this is just a number. So you're going to divide both sides by that number to get x all by itself. So divide by tangent of 35, divide by tangent of 35. This cancels off. So we end up with x equals And you want to punch it in your calculator, 10.8 divided by the tangent of 35. So you can go to this calculator if you need to. Clear that out. So 10.8 divided by the tangent of 35. And then there you go. There's your answer. So 15.42. Okay, sometimes they give you just the text. They don't give you a diagram. So you're going to want to draw a diagram. So one thing that's important to note is anytime that you are talking about a triangle, the capital letters here, those are going to represent the angles, and the lowercase letters are going to represent the sides opposite of those angles. So for example, if I drew, it's a bad triangle, isn't it? All right. Here's a right triangle. It's supposed to be a right triangle. We're going to make C, capital C is always going to be our right angle. And then these are A and B, capital A and capital B. So across from little a, across from big A is going to be little a. Across from big B is going to be little b. And across from big C is little c. So if you need to draw your diagram, then go ahead and do so. And then you can put in the measurements that they give you. So find C, so we're looking for C. If the measure of angle B equals 35 degrees, so 35 degrees is down here, and A equals 14. So A is 14. So there's your diagram. Now you're just going to go ahead and pick a trig function based off of what you have. So 35 degrees is here. So my C is my hypotenuse. My A is my adjacent. So adjacent and hypotenuse, that's a cosine. So cosine of 35 degrees equals my adjacent, which is 14, over my hypotenuse, which we'll just call little c for a minute. Find little c. Okay, multiply both sides by c. Those are going to cancel. And then you're going to divide both sides by the cosine of 35. So this is going to cancel, and then we have c all by itself. So 14 divided by the cosine of 35. Clear out your calculator. 14 divided by the cosine of 35. And there you go, 17.09. So that's how you find missing sides, finding missing angles. So on your calculator, you're going to want to use the inverse trig functions because we want to undo our trig functions for these because we're going to be given a triangle, we'll be able to set up the ratio, but then we need to go back and find the angle. So anytime you're trying to find a missing angle, you're going to use your inverse trig functions, which are sine inverse, cosine inverse, and tangent inverse. So whether you're using your phone, if you have a scientific calculator, a graphing calculator, find these trig functions on the calculator. On your graphing calculator, they're going to be right above sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, here's an example. So you want to, again, look at the angle that you're trying to find and think about, with respect to this angle, what do I have? So theta is here, traveling across my triangle to get to this 4, makes this my opposite side. And then this 8, this is my hypotenuse because it's right across from my right angle. So opposite hypotenuse, this is going to be sine. So you write it as sine of theta equals opposite, which is 4, over hypotenuse, which is 8. Now, if you want to reduce that, you can. You don't necessarily have to, because this is not going to be my final answer. You're just going to go into your calculator and punch this in. So the only way to separate a trig function from its angle is to undo it by using our sine inverse. So what you're going to punch in your calculator is sine inverse of 4/8 equals theta. Okay, so if you're going to use this calculator here, you're going to have to go to function. And as you can see, there are my inverse trig functions. Okay, so the main calculator is going to have sine, cosine, tangent. And then when you go to function, you have sine inverse, cosine inverse, tangent inverse. These are the ones you need when you're looking for a missing angle. So sine inverse of 4/8. Sine inverse, it's going to open parentheses for you, which is good. And then you want to go back to the main calculator to get your numbers. 4/8, 30. So theta is 30 degrees. One more example for you guys. For this one, they're just giving us the text. So if it helps, go ahead and draw your right triangle. C is your hypotenuse. This is going to be A and B. So find the measure of angle B. So we're going to put our theta down here because we're looking for angle B. If little b equals 12, well, little b is right across from big B. And little a equals 13, so little a is right across from big A, so little a equals 13. And then you pick your trig function. So this, looking at your theta, 12 is opposite and 13 is adjacent. So pick your trig function. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent theta equals opposite, which is 12, over adjacent, which is 13. Okay, so anytime you're looking for an angle, you want to use your inverse trig function. So you're going to go to your calculator, tangent inverse of that ratio equals your theta. Okay, so go back to your calculator, figure it out, go to function because we need the inverse trig function. So tangent inverse, let me just double check, what was that, 12 over 13. Go to your main calculator, 12. There we go. 12 divided by 13. 42.71 degrees. Okay, this might be really easy for some of you, especially if you have taken physics, because I know you deal with a lot of the right triangles. So if you are good on this stuff, I would just do a couple of the practice problems as a refresher. If you have only seen this in geometry when you took geometry a few years ago, then I would recommend you go ahead and try all the problems. There's not that many because we're going to be building on this. So email me if you have any questions. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.